Warning, the following show doesn't represent the opinion of CIVL, its employees, or the local clown college.
Hi, this is Jody Emery, and I took a left at the Valley.
I know we shouldn't have to scream that we're atheists. You know, we don't have non-astrologers and all that. But with religious people taking over the world, I mean, we can either speak up or be pushed into a corner.
I'm proud to be an atheist, a skeptic, a non-believer, an infidel, a heathen. I call it how I see it. I say it's ignorance and you just call it faith and unsubstantiated claims. That's something to be ashamed. I'm an atheist. I'm an atheist.
Well, out of the lunar base of CIVL 101.7 FM, this is Left of the Valley. My name is Kevin, and if it wasn't for this radio show, I'd probably be climbing the Empire State Building and swatting at planes right now. Joining me as usual is the team Batman wish he had instead of that puny Justice League. Our chronic countess constantly recollecting the chronicles of chronology, Nancy.
Holy cow.
That's a mouthful.
Our wizard Wonder Woman whose wholesome ways will bewilder you, Martina.
I'm so pleased to be here.
Our bright bulb with bulging bicep building battlements for brains, Tyler.
Give me coffee.
And finally returning to rescue these rogues of reason with rational reports, our friend Connie.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Thank you so much.
Guys, had a great week. How about you guys?
Sure.
Oh, I had a great week until this rainy Sunday when I'd really like, if it wasn't for you guys, I'd be taking a big nap for the rest of the afternoon.
Hey, I was actually going out there on my motorcycle course and riding in the rain. And thank God for the great teachings of Mike and Kevin there at V2N School. And plug for them, 826 Bike, by the way. Great teachers, and thank God for that, because otherwise I'd probably be squashed under a semi by now. A little bit of chit-chat. Did you guys see the last show we had, of course, Jody Emery, and we talked about the whole marijuana thing. Did you guys see the media reaction to 420?
I sure did, and it wasn't pleasant, was it?
No, it certainly wasn't. There was a lot of talking about whether or not the smoking in Vancouver was more of a festival versus a protest. And, I mean, I could totally understand where Jody was going with that. Personally, I feel that until it's actually legal, I think it's a protest. And although it's on the verge of being legal, it still isn't. So this might be the last year where she might be able to consider this a protest and not a festival.
Well, when I was listening to Simi Sarah, and she made the point that at a protest, do you have vendors selling things? And she felt that the presence of vendors there made it more of a festival than a protest.
An interesting debate for sure.
But I don't know, at a protest, wouldn't there be somebody selling T-shirts?
Yeah, that's right.
So I don't know, but it's interesting the arguments that people will come up with to make a point. I understand the point. I just don't know whether it's valid or not.
Yeah.
But
So does the commercial selling of goods make a protest or not?
It was not
Exactly.
a protest. It was not a protest.
Oh, okay.
No.
You don't think so?
Nope. I have very, very... This is bad. This is not working.
What?
Is it working?
Yeah, it is working.
My teenage daughter skipped school that day, and she went downtown without me knowing about it. And it was not a protest. She said there was partying happening and smoking everywhere, and they weren't protesting.
Yeah, how come you guys can hear it? How's that? Is that better?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, okay, perfect. Having
Better?
a problem with the mics, apparently.
No, they can't hear me.
Oh, really? That's interesting. Well, you're going to have to adjust the sound on that little blue box there. On top of that, there was also the bad news of a Bangladeshi professor that was actually killed again.
Hacked to death.
Yeah, in Bangladesh. But this one is different because it was actually claimed by ISIS. Now, the local government is saying, no, ISIS is not in Bangladesh. ISIS is saying, yes, we are. Who do we believe? I don't know, but it's certainly not a good place to be if you're a free thinker in Bangladesh right now. And on top of that, Connie, since you're back, we did a show a little while ago, talk about Alzheimer's. And you got an announcement.
Yeah, can we hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
No?
Go ahead.
Okay. So we have our Alzheimer's Walk coming up on Sunday, May 1st. It will be all over BC. There is one in Abbotsford. I'm not too sure where the location is. It is sponsored by Investors Group. My walk
There we go.
My walk will be on Sunday, May 1st at the Burnaby Lake Pavilion, located at 6871 Robert Street. If you happen to be in that area, please, please, please come out and support the walk. All the monies raised will go to the Alzheimer's Society of British Columbia. To date, last year, the whole province raised $750,000. Last year, my city, we raised $25,000, and as of yesterday,
You mind throwing some of that cash this way? You know?
oh yeah, God. As of Friday morning, last time I checked, before our walk here in Burnaby, we have already raised about $15,000. So we're hoping the day of the walk to add another $15,000 to make our grand total $30,000. It's going to be a lot of fun. We've got the mayor of Burnaby and New Westminster coming out to support us. We have constables coming out in their garb to walk. It's going to be a lot of great fun. So I hope to see every single person here. And I sent you guys all my link to support money or to send money, and I have not seen a single penny from any of you.
We work in a radio station. What do you expect? You think we make any money? Jeez.
I'm blind. I get off the hook for them for walks.
So please, 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 whoever's listening, please, please come out to the walk to any of the locations. They'll be advertised all this week on the media, in the local newspapers. Support any of the walks. My walk will be number one. I am the captain of the committee, and I have a lot riding on this, but I need support, and I need to see a lot of walkers out there.
I had no idea she was doing high-pressure sales, was she?
No. I haven't.
No. Should I open my wallet now?
Yeah.
Did you not hear the show last week?
I think you better open it before she grabs it.
Did you not hear the show last week? They cured Alzheimer's. You just smoke pot.
Oh, just smoke pot.
That's right. Jody Emery assured us of that. All right, Nancy, are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go.
Let's set you up.
All right, let's hit it. For this day in history, which, as we all know, is a roundup of those events and individuals that altered and illuminated the days between April 18th and the 24th. And April 18th is Invention Day in Japan.
Oh my God, that's going to be big.
That's a big day.
The Japanese are known for something. It's inventing stuff.
Absolutely. I'm going to do a little something different. Usually I cover a lot of different events, at least one sports story and one from Texas to keep my average of bizarre up. But actually on the 18th, a really interesting event happened having to do with Pentecostalism. And I got so intrigued that I'm going to devote quite a bit of time, because the beginnings of any religion I think are interesting, but this one I think I'm sure many of our listeners are aware of it, especially if they come from a Pentecostal background, but most of it was brand new to me, and I hope it'll be interesting for everybody else too.
Pentecostals?
The Pentecostals.
Those are the ones speaking in tongues, right?
Those are them. And those are them. In 1906, the Los Angeles Times story on the Azusa Street revival launched Pentecostalism as a worldwide movement, so they can actually trace it back to an actual place and an actual event. Going into Pentecostalism, or classical Pentecostalism, it's a renewal movement within Protestant Christianity that places special emphasis on a direct personal experience of God through baptism with the Holy Spirit. And the term Pentecostal is derived from Pentecost, which is the Greek name for Jewish Feast of Weeks. For Christians, the event commemorates the descent of the Holy Spirit upon the followers of Jesus Christ, as described in the 2nd chapter of the book of Acts. Moving on up to 1900, there was an interesting man named Charles Parham. He was an American evangelist and a faith healer, and he began teaching that speaking in tongues was the Bible evidence of spirit baptism. That his belief was that when you spoke in tongues, you had to speak, or people who were speaking would speak in a recognizable language. And that became a split in Pentecostalism later on, but that started as something that Parham advocated.
Maybe because they can't understand each other, these people.
Could be. William J. Seymour was the second person on the scene, and he was really an interesting guy. He was an African-American preacher. He had almost died from smallpox, regained the sight in one eye, but became blind in the other, and he attributed his survival directly to his faith. And so he took the teachings of speaking in tongues to Los Angeles, and he was a student of Charles Parham, and Parham sent him to Los Angeles, where he found a very small, empty, downtrodden little church at 312 Azusa Street. And so he and his growing band of followers conducted services that were spirit-filled and full of people speaking in tongues, shouting, singing, and moaning. And through that, Seymour split with Parham, saying that if you spoke in tongues and it was spirit-filled, that was okay, according to being
Spirit-filled.
Spirit-filled. Yep.
That sounds like an alcoholic thing.
No, it wasn't an alcoholic thing at all.
That would explain the speaking in tongue,
Yeah,
like too drunk.
Exactly. So the Azusa Street Revival was a historic Pentecostal revival meeting, and that was the origin of Pentecostal movement here in North America. So from 1906, it continued to 1915. And the revival was characterized by ecstatic spiritual experiences accompanied by miracles, dramatic worship services, speaking in tongues, and interracial mingling, which was unusual for the time because Seymour was African American. One of the things that he really wanted was equality of the races, and he stressed that, whereas Parham, who originally was the first Pentecostal, was really against it. And so this began a split between the two men in terms not only of their speaking in tongues, but also their approach to interracial meetings as well. So the participants were strongly criticized by the secular media and Christian theologians for behaviors considered to be outrageous and unorthodox. But today, the revival is considered by historians to be the primary catalyst for the spread of Pentecostalism in the 20th century. This is what I found really interesting. The Los Angeles Observer reported on the goings-on at Azusa Street Church, and the reporter there said, "No instruments of music are used, none are needed. No choir, the angels have been heard by some in the spirit. No collections are taken, no bills have been posted to advertise the meetings. No church organization is back of it. All who are in touch with God realize as soon as they enter the meetings that the Holy Ghost is the leader." So now the Los Angeles Times gave their description, which was not so kind. And they said, this is like the difference between MSNBC and Fox News. It really is.
Well, I'm not sure there's much of a difference anymore.
Oh, yeah. So the Los Angeles Times said, "Meetings are held in a tumble-down shack on Azusa Street, and the devotees of the weird doctrine practice the most fantastical rites, preach the wildest theories, and work themselves into a state of mad excitement in their particular zeal. African Americans and a sprinkling of whites compose the congregation, and night is made hideous in the neighborhood by the howlings of the worshippers, who spend hours swaying forth and back in a nerve-wracking attitude of prayer and supplication. They claim to have the gift of tongues and be able to understand the babble. But to the sober mind, all this is errant tomfoolery." We don't hear tomfoolery.
No.
It's a great
This is
word.
very well written, actually.
It is.
I like it.
Yeah, and it is beyond understanding that any intelligent person can be caught in such a senseless entanglement of religious mania. One visit to the place is enough to disgust any thoughtful person, and the more light of day that is turned upon it, the less people will have to do with it, even though they be plain folk with little education, biblical or otherwise.
Wow.
Wow, yeah. But I think both aspects are pretty much alive and well today, I think, in reporting, depending on what side you are in terms of religion.
Yes.
So today, since the 1960s, Pentecostalism has increasingly gained acceptance from other Christian traditions, and the charismatic movement and the charismatic movement and Pentecostal, which are similar, they number over 500 million adherents.
What?
500 million. And today, the 312 Azusa Street is a little alley in the Tokyo Japanese section of Los Angeles, but there's a marker, and they plan to make it a historic site.
Wow.
Yeah, so some of the churches that are considered Pentecostal are Assemblies of God, Church of God in Christ, Church of God in Cleveland, Tennessee, International Church of the Foursquare Gospel, which was Amy Semple McPherson, International Pentecostal Holiness Church, and United Pentecostal Church International. So it's an interesting, a lot of interesting
Yeah,
stuff
you actually
there.
went through a lot there.
Yeah. Okay, April 20th, moving away from Pentecostalism, way away.
Thank you.
April the 20th was 420. And in Vancouver, it was at Sunset Beach.
There was a blue haze of smoke over
haze,
Vancouver that day.
And on that day, Trudeau mentioned that he was going to start legalization of marijuana. So a lot happened on the 20th.
Mm-hmm.
The 21st was the Queen's birthday. April 22nd was a full day, Earth Day, and the first day of Passover for our Jewish friends. And to end on a note that is befitting the reason why we are here on the radio, April 23rd is Openly Secular Day.
Ooh.
And yay! And that's a celebration of secular people opening up about their secular worldview and an opportunity for theistic allies to show their support for secular friends and family. It's a day to help others understand our values and how we think. And you can participate by attending a local event, making a video, posting on social media, or you can get involved in some other ways like having your own radio
That's
show.
right. You hear that, Radio Land?
There
Get
you
secular.
go.
Get moving.
Get secular. And you can also visit the Dawkins and CFI website to see what's going on with them. And that, dear listeners, brings to a close another passing parade of interesting, mundane, unusual, and more often than not bizarre events that make up this day in history.
Thank you very much,
Thanks,
Nancy.
Nancy.
And we'll be right back right after this.
What is secular humanism?
Critical thinking.
Knowledge is freedom. Freedom from ignorance and its offspring, fear.
The BC Humanist Association has been active in the Vancouver area for over 25 years. We offer a friendly and welcoming place to make new friends, as well as free educational lectures. We invite you to join us any Sunday at 10 a.m. in the Oak Ridge Senior Center. Please visit our website for more details, bchumanist.ca.
You are listening to CIVL 101.7 FM at the University of the Fraser Valley's Abbotsford campus, serving the surrounding communities of Abbotsford, Mission, and Chilliwack, British Columbia. Email us at info@civl.ca. Follow us on Facebook. Click like on CIVL Radio. Follow CIVL on Twitter at CIVL_radio.
A Canadian, a New Yorker, and a Southern belle walked into a podcast, and all hell broke loose. Seriously, though, what happens when we three ladies get together? Well, definitely a lot of talking. And accents. Funny accents. Well, I don't have an accent, but my co-hosts sure do. We mix North, South, and the Great White North together for 2 hours of pure secular discussion. Nothing is off limits. From goofy religions like Scientology, woo like ghost hunting and alternative medicine, to hardcore history, hermeneutics, sex, and science. We cover it all. What the heck is a hermeneutic? Well, it's not a guy named Herman who sings falsetto, that's for sure. Join Beth, Ashley, and myself, Deborah, every Monday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, and we take you beyond the trailer park and bring the conversation to life. Join us live on YouTube and participate in the conversation via the Q&A system, or catch us later on Spreaker, Stitcher, iTunes, and Nobex. Visit www.beyondthetrailerpark.com for links to the show and our upcoming schedule. Bring your wine and sweet tea and settle in for fun facts and free thinking. We happily wear the explicit tag, though, so make sure to wash out your mouth with something tasty before listening. That's live at 9:30 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. Come give us a like and a share. no matter what type of accent you have.
Sorry about that. We just went to the wrong button there. Okay. So today, we're doing a show on childhood obesity. We were supposed to do that a few weeks ago. Now, how confident are you, dear?
I'm good.
You want to go right ahead into it?
I thought you had something else to talk about.
We can.
No,
It's
you
up-
go first. You go first.
Okay, fine then. This show is really getting off the rails today. It's like not following schedule at all. That's okay. Well, that promo you just heard there, that is actually Beyond the Trailer Park. It's actually a podcast out of Ontario. And Deborah there will be our guest next week. So we're looking forward to listening to her.
Yeah, that sounded really interesting.
Yeah, oh yeah. It's an interesting podcast, and might have to tell her to tone it down because on podcasts you can do or say whatever you want, but on the radio airwaves you might have to.
So are you saying that I'm not going to be seeing you at my walk?
What, next week?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. I'm going to have to split myself into two now.
All's good. All's
well,
good.
while I'm thinking about it, we'll go with our usual...
Another brilliant moment brought to you by religion.
Yes, the weird and wacky world of religion, once again. Now, did you guys know, this is great news, by the way. You know, if you're a fan of archaeology or paleontology, you'll love this. Apparently, leading creationists claim that Stonehenge was built by a race of giants, created by Satan to destroy Israel. Did you guys know that?
Nope.
Hey, I know. While appearing on the Jim Baker show earlier this month, Dennis Lindsay, a PhD, a leading figure in the area of creation science, that's an oxymoron, made his argument that Stonehenge was built by a race of giants created by Satan. Televangelist Jim Baker invited Dr. Lindsay on his program to discuss Lindsay's latest discovery of the mysterious field of creation science. So he told, is it Baker? I've been calling him Baker. I guess it's Baker. That Stonehenge.
No, it's Baker.
It's Baker? Okay.
Yeah, they're the two Ks
Yeah,
there, but
two
it's
Ks.
Baker. No,
Okay.
it's Baker.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
That Stonehenge was built by giants who were created by Satan, and those giants were tools of the devil who wanted to destroy Israel. So speaking of Satan, Lindsay said, he's out to destroy God's creation and his whole plan of redemption and contaminate the human race. I'm not sure how you do that. Contaminate the human race. We're so pure, right? Lindsay explained that Satan wanted to have his own seed and make his own family, so he created a race of giants who would attack Israel. So then Lindsay told Baker he, Satan, built his little squatter hut up there on the Temple Mount. You know that temple because he knows what the Bible says about the place. I weave through why and what the evidence is for giant beings on this earth. We all know about Stonehenge, right? That's just one of hundreds of gigantic places around the world that testify to some sort of supernatural power of giants that were involved in construction. So if you cannot find a job in construction today, that is why. There is a height requirement.
I mean, that's so stupid. Everybody knows that they were built by extraterrestrials that came from other planets. You know, I mean, what kind of creation science did he get his degree from? Walmart off the shelf?
Probably
This
a Cracker Jack box.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at the Easter Island statues and you know they're extraterrestrials. What's this giant stuff?
I know it's not a logical
Jim Baker ought to
fallacy.
know. Jim Baker ought to know better.
He so should. I mean, first of all, I think that's how it goes, right? It goes, if you don't know the explanation for something, you blame aliens, and then gods, and then after that you blame giants.
Alien of the Gaps. have you heard of the documentary? Well, I don't even want to call it that. Forbidden
Mockumentary.
Yeah, there you go. Forbidden Archaeology.
That rings a bell.
Oh, it's terrible. This guy claims that he found like giant skeletons that are over 10 feet tall.
Yes, you see those on Facebook on a regular
they're
basis.
40 million years old, and then you say the scientists actually requested to analyze them. They say, "Oh no, we're not going to give them to you. You'll hide them." And that and
it's a conspiracy.
If you Google Smithsonian conspiracy, that's what comes up, is that the Smithsonian had these giant skeletons and they're hiding them in the basement.
Well, not even just in the basement. You can just hide them in the exhibit. You know, the skull is in the capsule of the Apollo 13 mission, and you know you can put these bones all over the place.
Well, and from what I remember, the tallest Homo sapien fossil ever found was like just over 8 feet, and he had massive leg problems. Like when you start getting that big, you start running into problems like the giants wouldn't be able to really move if they're over 10 feet tall.
Are you sure? Maybe he had leg problems because he was working so hard at building the pyramids. These stones are pretty heavy. So that's why, and I don't know why, and for some reason those giants wanted to destroy Israel too, which is fantastic. Because all these giants knew way back then that in 1948 Israel would be formed, right? They totally knew.
Well, science is so restrictive. When you have an imagination, you can just go anywhere, anytime, any place, and just create whatever facts you want to fit your imagination. I love it.
But it is kind of like the UFO people or whatever. They say, oh, there is physical evidence, but they're hiding it from us. Whether it be NASA or the Smithsonian. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. It's totally hidden. Well, thank you so much for that, guys. That was a good laugh. All right. My dearest Connie, you've been gone for a long time.
I have. Thank you for being patient.
That's okay. Welcome back.
Thank you.
And today you're talking about childhood obesity.
Must I?
But you came all the way here just to tell me that?
I crossed the bridge just for you.
Oh,
she had all the information, but someone hid it.
That's right. That's right.
Yes, Connie wants to destroy Israel too. You heard it here first on CIVL.
It's a plague on this show.
All right. Well, Mike is all yours, dear.
Okay. Where to start?
The beginning. In the beginning. There was Connie.
For those who don't know me, which is probably the majority of the Lower Mainland.
Everybody knows you.
Of course. I am an obese woman. I was an obese child. I have 2 younger brothers, and one of them is also obese. My parents, obese. So I come from an obese family. So people try to figure out, is this genetic? Is this poor lifestyle? Is this just overeating and being lazy? So I had to start my research somewhere and try to figure out if there's a reason behind it, what can we do about it as parents, as adults, trying to mold our young people to make them healthier in their adulthood. So some of the information I found was shocking, and I tried to find things that were mainly Canadian news-wise. Canadian, we don't care about the States.
That's no. What she means now for the listeners that's listening to our show.
I want to deal more with Canadians.
You want to prioritize on the Canadian information, right?
And this
apology to our American listeners.
I'm so sorry. I was politically incorrect. So I had to start the research somewhere, and the very first piece of information that I found, which was kind of shocking, was 1/3 of Canadians aged 2 to 17 are considered overweight or obese. And that's a huge, huge number.
Now, I'm going to stop you right there to begin with, right? Because, first of all, a lot of people will consider obese. I'm considered obese, right? For my height and my weight, I am considered morbidly obese. It's true. I'm 5'10", and I weigh about 225, 230 pounds. Right? But I'm a guy that's always in the gym, right?
Yeah, well, it depends if it's muscle or not, right?
Yeah, well, I could be squishy at some places.
Well, whose definition? All right, let's start. Whose definition of obese are you going to use, and what is it?
Yes.
What are you talking about? What my source was?
Yeah.
Well, these are just taken from the Canadian Population Health Initiative.
Okay, so it's the government.
Okay, so
the government thinks we're fat.
Pretty much.
Something we could trim down. It's the government.
So, I mean, just reading that first line, that 1/3 of Canadians aged 2 to 17 are overweight or obese is a frightening analysis of the situation. I have 2 teenage daughters, and both are probably considered overweight or not obese, but overweight.
Your daughters are big.
They are big. They're bigger compared to looking at their teenage friends who are the same age. Maybe even a little bit shorter than I mean, my youngest daughter, she's quite tall for 14. She has slimmed down in the last 2 years because she grew up. Mm-hmm. My older daughter, she stopped growing, so she's shorter than her 14-year-old sister, but she had her accident, and she is less mobile now.
Which doesn't help.
It doesn't help,
No.
but then you put into mind depression because of the accident, not being mobile, locking herself in a room, and the best thing for her, in her mind, is to raid the fridge. So she's a stress eater, which a lot of teenagers are. To this day, as an adult, I'm still a stress eater, an emotional eater. Something bad happens. My life. What do? You raid the fridge, and where's the box of Oreos? But we're not talking about adults now. I mean...
Inconceivable!
But being a child that was obese, as a woman now in my 40s, there is a trend. And that's what the statistics show, that the likelihood of being obese as an adult is a lot higher if you were obese as a child. And I don't know if I'm living proof. I'm scared for the teenagers, or I'm scared of the 2 to 17-year-olds who have the problem now and they don't get it fixed professionally by a nutritionist, by the help of their parents, that they're going to be an adult that have the exact same problems. And as an obese woman, I would not wish that on anybody.
Okay, well, I'm gonna play devil's advocate here because I like doing that anyway. Do we really want to start monitoring kids? Because especially as they grow, how much monitoring do we want to? Do we want to put kids on diets?
No, not diets, but we have to teach them what's right. We have to teach them to eat in moderation. Mm-hmm. We need to teach them to not play on their phones and their iPads and their computers for 2 hours a day, which every single child seems to be doing. I didn't have these things until I was in my late 30s.
Why are you looking at me? I didn't give you a kid the iPad.
Because you have an iPad there.
I have to.
They don't know how to play anymore. We played as kids. In the summertime, my parents kicked us out and they would call us for lunch. And if we didn't come back for lunch, well, that was our problem. We came home for dinner and then we were back outside until bedtime. Our kids, nobody's kids, just not mine, they don't know how to do that anymore. I've talked to other parents of my age group and we all talk about the exact same thing. And weight, they're packing on the weight because they're watching television, they're playing video games, they're texting. They just don't know what to do anymore because you take these things away from them and they just sit. They don't know how to move. And
I don't know about that. I mean, it's true that it seems to be the norm because it's the easy thing to go to. But there was a point that when I was a kid, it used to be the other way around. You were the very skinny kid, and the parents would say, "Well, geez, you need to eat some more," and then somebody would say, "No, you'll just fill up eventually."
No,
right?
Okay.
So,
do you have access to the internet now, Kevin, or is it not working here still?
Well, I have some kind of access.
Okay, so this is what you find what you need to find. Okay, so this is what I found now talking about moving. If overweight kids are not moving less, and if, as other data suggests, they are not necessarily eating more, why are some kids overweight and others not? If the environmental effects are pretty much the same for everyone, why do we even have lean and obese kids? If this is not an issue, then we all should be the exact same size.
That is a mystery indeed.
Well, I want to throw a monkey wrench. We live in an era of body image. And for girls and for teenagers, sometimes that body image is that if you're 5 feet tall, you ought to weigh 62 pounds because that's the way the models are.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're 5 feet and you weigh 100 pounds, is that overweight? Is that average for your height? Is that leaning to... I mean, we get into semantics, and I honestly don't know when you go from being a little overweight to obese. Is there anything where your kids are clearer on the language so that they don't go from, hey, you skinny little runt, to, oh, my God, you're obese? I mean, where are the limits?
I mean, even as adults, I think they base everything on the BMI, body mass
index. Which is a
index.
terrible way of measuring.
Oh, it is.
Okay.
I mean, just like Kevin said, I mean, you say that you're obese, but you
I'm
are
considered morbidly
but
obese.
you're muscle.
Yeah.
You're muscle, where I am not muscle.
I am muscle.
And they do have it. They do have other ways of measuring BMI, like they have like a pinch test, and they can like measure your torso, and which is way more accurate than you go into the computer. You type in your age, your gender, your height, your weight.
Unfortunately, when you talk to the insurance industry, they will use the BMI, right?
Well, they also use the Myers-Briggs in our government, so yeah, that doesn't really say very much.
Fair enough.
So I'm wondering, who labels the kids obese? Is it the doctor then that comes, or is it the kid who really feels as though, they're obese compared to the other skinny?
I think it's a two-way
kids?
thing. I mean, kids, they look at themselves, they look at their peers, and if they see that their peers are a rail, then of course they're going to call themselves fat, obese, I'm overweight, or whatever. And the doctors, I guess, they would be the ones who would technically give you the term of being obese and not just overweight. the doctors told me when I was 14, 15 that I'm considered an obese teenager.
Yeah, but the doctors didn't set the standard, right? The standard was actually set and then approved by government.
The standard that I heard was that you qualify, I guess, as obese if you have to lose more than 30 pounds of excess fat. So muscle wouldn't count in that, bone, height, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That was the definition that I found.
Well, I've got a fat head, but I'm not sure I could lose 30 pounds of it.
I mean, when you see a 6-year-old child who's 2.5 feet tall or 3 feet, and they weigh 70, 80, 90 pounds. They're morbidly obese at that point, and you understand that's the problem. But I guess I'm kind of struggling with a kid who has a negative body image. Being called obese when they may not be. I'm not discounting movement, nutrition, anything. I'm just wondering at what point.
But at the same time, Nancy, you bring a very good point. The kid is obese now, and that kid goes into like a growth spur, and all of a sudden they kind of stretch, and all of a sudden their weight is way better distributed, right? Right. So how early do we start tacking something like that onto kids, or do we?
No, they say at 2 years old. At 2 years old is when they have those percent when you go in for the baby's checkups at 6 months old, 9 months old, and they say that your baby is in this percentile. Mm-hmm. And my kids were always in the 95 percentile for height and their weight. They weren't considered large at 6 months or a year old or 18 months. At 2 years old, though, then they start. This is what the doctor told me, not to be careful, but say now your daughter is at the 100 percentile at the age of 2, not meaning that they're overeating, but they just could be big boned because I'm big boned and my parents were larger and I have a larger family. It just could be, it could be a genetic thing.
Yes.
So that's when they said at 2 years old, okay, now kind of start monitoring, maybe take her off of the Homo milk and do this. And of course the cookies go out and more of the vegetables, but not too much in fruit because it's all sugar. They weren't saying already be prepared that your child is going to be, but that's when they start saying now as a parent, you need to make those choices as to how your children are going to grow up in the society where it's fat or it's skinny, so we had to make the choice as a parent. How are we going to stop this from happening? Looking at me. Maybe that's why he said it more openly to me, because he saw me and he knew my struggles and he was trying to prepare me. What could happen having a child who has a mother who is in that category of being obese?
But you are correct about the activity thing. I posted a link from Global News in our Left of the Valley Facebook group yesterday or the day before, and it's entitled Canadians' Children Get a D in Activity. So the amount of physical activity that kids are getting now compared to, when my parents were kids, even when I was a kid, same story as Connie. I was always outside. That's anecdotal. But the link that I posted is like an actual government rating that kids are way less active than they used to be.
Oh, it's true. And I don't know if you guys know. I mean, I have my eldest daughter is close to graduating. They have to.
Congratulations.
They have to take physical education up to the end of grade 10. Grade 11 and grade 12, it's no longer, you could pick it as an elective, but you don't have to take it. However, in order to graduate, you actually have to fill out as a parent, and we have to send into the school every 3 months as a physical activity log. And the parents, we have to sign it and say, yes, my child did 30 minutes of activity on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday. If they don't get that at the end of grade 11 or at the end of grade 12, your child does not graduate high school.
Ooh, so
and that is government.
So does that mean that you're going to be in charge of Savannah's fitness for graduation there?
Well, we are kind of getting away with it because of her accident, because it's harder for her to move.
Yeah, of course.
But we are able to show that she is walking from our house to the bus stop and bus stop.
And she got hit by a car, right?
She got hit by a car.
Just so people know, because you said accident.
Yeah,
so.
She got hit by a car. She lost her left kneecap. So now it's a
Poor
struggle. It's been tough. It's been almost a year. It's been tough.
She's what, 17?
She'll be 17 this year.
Yeah.
It's been so she has being a teenage girl, being hit by a car, family life, and now she's locking herself in a room and not being active.
It's a lot for a kid.
And I'm worried about. And I try to keep telling her in a very calm and rational way that I don't want her to do what I did.
Just bring her to the studio. We'll go her. We'll put her through the paces. She'll be sweating by the time she's out of here.
Oh, it's tough. I'm trying to do the best I can because I don't want to have children who are obese. I started weight loss at 37 years old and I lost 130 pounds. but it took me 5.5 years to do that.
130 pounds.
130 pounds.
And that's like
that's a teenager.
That's like
But you kept it off. The main thing is that you kept it off.
Trying to.
Yeah,
You're trying to keep but you didn't gain back 130
No,
pounds.
no.
130 pounds in Canadian currency, that's like $260, right? That's a lot.
That's a lot.
It's hard work.
So you're doing something right, and your kids ought to be able to see that it works when you
I'm
stick
hoping,
to it, right?
and I don't want any child to have to live their entire childhood, adolescence, going through the 20s and 30s, and then go, aha, I need to do this now. Because when you're 30 years old or 35 years old, and you're trying to do it compared when you're 15,
oh, it's way tougher.
Oh my goodness! If I had a metabolism of a 15-year-old, I would be, oh my God, I would be supermodel.
With the efforts you're putting in now.
Oh, well, not so much these days. So let's go back to some of these quotes here that I found, because we've gone off topic. No, not off topic.
Actually, before we go back to these quotes there and off topic, I'm late for a commercial break, so it's gonna be a quick one. We'll be right back right after this.
If you want to do some good this year and help your fellow humans, check out the Women's Resource Society of the Fraser Valley.
The Women's Resource Society is a secular, feminist, non-profit organisation providing help to women and children in Mission and Abbotsford.
They have been providing safe refuge for women and children who need shelter as well as support and information since 1984.
So if you want to help bring awareness to women, youth and children who are experiencing violence or who are at risk of homelessness or in need of support, check out wrsfv.ca.
Again, if you want to donate or get involved, check out wrsfv.ca.
You're listening to Left at the Valley on CIVL 101.7 FM.
All right, we're back. Sorry for interrupting you like that, Connie, but, I have to do due diligence here.
No worries.
All right, back to where we were.
Okay, so where was I? Okay, so research has demonstrated that excess weight puts children at risk for a range of preventable health problems, including type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, joint problems, and mental health issues. So again, this goes back to health, exercise, depression, which as a teenager, I think a majority of teenagers have not mental health issues, but the depression. And I think having the weight doesn't help. I know it didn't help me. I don't think it's helping my kids, but we have to do what we can as adults. Where was my next one?
So what are school lunches doing? Is there
That's
an
another
attempt in the schools to provide the kinds of lunches that contribute toward good nutrition and
when we lived,
healthy weight?
When we lived in Burnaby, this was about 7 years ago.
That's not your fault, by the way.
What, living in Burnaby?
Yeah, it's not your fault.
Okay. The school that the kids went to, they actually offered a hot lunch program, and it was $40 a month or something, and they actually served really, really nutritious lunches. We moved to Coquitlam, and this is before they started middle school. They were still in elementary school, and there was no such thing. They would bring in hot dog day Friday, pizza day. So again, it was nothing. They weren't...
It gets even worse than that, because these schools are so strapped for cash, and now they're signing deals with companies like Coca-Cola and Pepsi and McCain fries, and all of a sudden you see these vending machines.
Yeah. But then my eldest daughter, she did her first 3 years of middle school before she went off to high school. When she went to middle school, they had a cafeteria, and they served pierogies, the French fries. So sometimes I would give them money if I was rushed to make lunch, because I knew what I was packing. They were getting nutritious lunches. And then by the time my youngest one got to middle school, they had the cafeteria for a year. And I don't know if it was more for being conscious about the weight problem or budgetary constraints. Cafeteria was closed, and they actually took out the vending machine. So they didn't have any access anymore to the Coke machines and the chocolate bars and the chips. Oh boy, there was an uproar with the kids. Yeah. It's not fair. We don't have this anymore. My oldest daughter, who goes to a high school, They do have a cafeteria. All the food, though, is cooked by the students in grade 11 and grade 12 foods. I don't know the quality of the food, but they've got pulled pork Thursdays. And
Can't be worse than my cooking.
Yeah, I've tasted it. And Taco Tuesdays and Taco Tuesdays. But across the street from their high school is a Starbucks and a McDonald's.
There you go.
So guess where they're going at lunchtime?
Exactly.
Even though I'm packing lunch, guess where they're going at lunchtime? So I can't be with my kids 24 hours a day. I pack a lunch, and I'm assuming that they're eating their lunch, but they're not eating their lunch.
I think that's a real problem because you can do everything you can to try and, regardless of your weight, you want to know that you're eating well, that you're eating nutritious food.
Steer
and
them
you're
in
not
the right direction.
Empty
and
calories, and yet everybody promotes this. But the reality is that it doesn't happen in the schools, and it's difficult to spend days eating the chips and the tacos and the pulled pork, and then you say, no, it's veggies and hummus.
What really
from now
bothers me is the schools. They institute these areas where you can't smoke over past the parking lot, or if you get caught smoking pot in the parking lot.
Why are you looking at me when you said that?
She's looking at me too, so obviously she's.
I'm the one guy who probably doesn't smoke in this studio, and she's looking at me right away.
I don't have my glasses on, so I don't know where to look. But yet, they're putting a school, or they don't care if the kids are going across the street to going to the McDonald's. So as the educators, they should be not banning, but doing more of an effort to at least serving the kids healthy food. If they're putting all this emphasis on the smoking and the marijuana, then they should be doing a better job of advocating proper nutrition. I can only do so much as a parent. Any of us can only do so much.
Yeah,
but we're not doing enough.
You know what's going to happen here.
Exactly. I'm on your side. There should be the support of the institutions that are promoting it. They ought to.
But you know what's going to happen, Nancy. They're going to say, if the government needs to start babysitting your kids, and the school teachers need to do more work to babysit your kids to make sure they eat right, we have to raise your taxes, and then the whole population is going to go, no. Right?
I think what Connie's getting at is it's very complex.
I agree. It's very difficult for parents to be able to get this done.
I know the teachers realize it because they see it every single day, but the kids who have the weight problems and they go across the street to eat, they're the kids that get bullied. The teachers don't pay attention to the bulliers because they don't want to spend extra time listening to more problems of the kids. So then the kids who are, it's just, I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's just a vicious cycle. And if the kids get bullied, they go home. Then those kids who are overweight and are going home because they're being bullied, they open up their cupboards and they're eating more and more again. They're going to have the problems as adults. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart that we don't have enough support to help these kids. And
it's not being seen as a problem. That's why.
It is a problem, though, when they say that 1/3 of Canadians between the ages of 2 and 17 are overweight or obese.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
I know. I just get too passionate about it. It just bothers me.
Easy.
I have so much to add to this, so you just tell me when.
I think I have 3 minutes or 2 minutes. I'm really not going to read from my notes anymore because we've said enough.
Enough of the notes.
Yeah, enough of the notes. We know that there's a problem. There's a problem when it comes to the kids medically, emotionally, and we just need to do more. And they keep on, the government is saying, okay, that they have to prove we did this with them and there's this much education, but as a medical system, what are we doing to help the kids? What are we doing? There should be nutritionists going into the schools and teaching the kids. They're not doing that. They spend more money on bringing in a cheerleader team or talking about stupid stuff. Let's have a nutritionist come in and talk to the kids about what they should be eating and how to deal with stress instead of opening up a fridge. They don't do any of that stuff.
Well, other countries seem to be able to manage better than we do. Scandinavian countries, they don't have and it would be nice eventually to model our systems. What is the name of the chef now that comes, that English chef that comes into the various...
Jamie Oliver guy?
Yeah, he comes into school systems and helps them revise the menus. I don't know how well they maintain it after he leaves, but I think he's one of the people that really is trying to.
I saw somewhere on the news or something, he went to some of the schools in the South and they took out the deep fryers and they took out anything that would promote bad cooking. We need to have that here.
Yes. And the kids dumped it all in the trash for the first 2 weeks, but then they got hungry and tried it and said, it's not as bad as we thought.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
Yeah, no, it's a change to your system. But I'll stop my rant now.
Well, thank you so much, Connie, for all that. Tyler, my friend, you today are having a spotlight, right?
Yeah, not really.
No, really?
No,
Well, you're doing it anyway.
I'm just gonna kind of rant here, and then you guys can jump in.
I just played the music for Spotlight. And you tell me you don't have a Spotlight.
I just kind of do whatever the hell I want to do, and if you don't like it, but
This
I
is-
will.
this
but
is
I,
why I drink.
But I will. Yeah. But I will talk about Lauren Cordain. Has anybody ever heard of him?
No.
Okay, so he has a PhD in exercise physiology. He's a professor at Colorado State University. He popularized the paleo diet back in like 2002.
Oh, I remember that.
Okay, so he wrote the book. It's called Paleo Diet, and kind of came up with the logic that we have evolved to eat a certain way, and everything has kind of gone to shit since the agricultural revolution, which I kind of agree with. There's a little bit of a naturalistic fallacy there, and I think that some of the paleo promoter people try to apply one rule to everybody, and they act like there was one paleo diet, which there really would have been numerous paleo diets, right? Because we're kind of scattered all over the place.
Yes.
There's a TED Talk called Paleo Diet Debunked. It doesn't actually debunk it. It just kind of says that there wasn't just, one paleo diet or whatever. But anyways, I don't eat paleo. I would love to. I probably should, but I don't.
Paleo? You don't eat paleo?
Oh, I smoke cigarettes and drink coffee and drink beer and eat frozen burritos. So
Wait a minute, isn't that a corn-based meal? No, that's polenta. Sorry.
the caveman diet, as they call it.
Okay, now I get it.
So anyway, I've done a whole bunch of research in the last 12 hours. I didn't really sleep at all. All my research is coming from Stanford.edu and PubMed, Public Medical, which is ncbi.gov. So, and I can provide sources for that. But what I've learned in the last little while is that they took all those famous diets out there and kind of competed them against each other.
Ooh,
and
Battle Royale.
That's the thing that I posted that I tagged you in at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, okay.
And there's some patterns with it. They've debunked quite a bit of myths. One of the old myths was, you have to have a low fat, and I'm talking healthy fat, like monounsaturated, polyunsaturated. I'm not talking like trans fats or whatever. But it's a myth. Like, they tried to link it to being, heart disease and all these things, and it's been long debunked by, professionals and whatnot. But anyway, so was there even a correlation, or the whole thing is No, they had 22 different countries, and the guy decided to pick 6 of them that had a high-fat diet and high heart rate disease.
Cherry picking it.
Well, yeah, it was total fraud. It was ridiculous. But anyways, the correlation that they have noticed is that having a low-carb diet is what actually works. It was the Atkins diet that did the best out of all of the diets that were out there.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. And
I tried it. It doesn't work.
Yeah, we used to think he was a quack. Most people can't stay with it, but
even the founder himself died overweight, and
yeah, most people don't stick with it. So another one of the things with the Atkins diet is that he recommends you drink 8 glasses of 8 ounces of water a day, and that actually makes you eat less. So that might have actually been part of it. So the only other diet that did better than the Atkins diet was the paleo diet. And that was in relation to weight loss, as well as things like cardiovascular disease and heart disease and all these other things. But I'm going to try to focus on weight loss here mostly. And I think there's a false dichotomy as to whether it's environment or genetics. It's both, right? I mean, they have studies where they have somebody like me who is unusually thin, I guess you would say. And you can have 2 people on the exact same diet, the exact same portion, the exact same exercise, the exact same everything. And one person won't gain any weight, and the other one will get fat. And it's because it's insulin resistant, and it's basically carb sensitive. There was this really interesting study that they did back in 1950 where they put this guy on a meat and vegetable diet, so, like steak and broccoli. And he lost 50 pounds very, very, very quickly. And then they started giving him 1 apple a day, and he started gaining the weight back.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it is definitely genetic and definitely environmental, but there's all these weird myths about it that it's calories in and calories out, that kind of thing. People just go with the national average, which is like 2,000 calories, 2,500 calories or whatever. But they don't realize that you can have, you know what a rest metabolism is?
No.
It's how many calories you would burn if you stayed in bed for 24 hours. Like if you were in a coma, just to, run your breathing and your heart rate and all this other stuff. You can have one person who their rest metabolism, they need 1,000 calories. And another person who their rest metabolism is 2,000 calories. You put them on the exact same exercise regimen, the exact same diet, everything. And one person will stay the same or lose weight, and the other person will be putting on weight. So there's this myth that all these fat people are eating at McDonald's every day and it's their fault, even though they're trying to eat healthy. So they've come up with this thing. It's the basically the carbohydrate pyramid, and they kind of start at the bottom with like vegetables and like brown rice and potatoes, and go all the way up. This is the glycemic index. Have you heard of that? So
yes.
Yeah, spikes your insulin or whatever, and then all the way at the top is like fruit roll-up and candies and all that kind of stuff. So basically what they're suggesting is that all these studies don't really help if you don't know who's carb sensitive and who's not, right? Even if they're all on the exact same diet. So it's kind of case by case. You can't just have the Canadian food guide. Eat this many, grains. And some people can't eat grains. Some people eat grains, they'll get sick or they'll pack on the weight, and then I can eat grains all day long and I won't gain a pound even if I'm trying to.
So we're basically saying that there is no standard. It really is to each his own.
Well,
and you really have to experiment with yourself and your body.
You can get tested for certain things like insulin resistance, and then you'd have to kind of base your diet that way. But the Canadian food guide and like the American food guide, it wasn't tested thoroughly. It was like a bunch of people sitting around saying, what's common sense? That kind of thing, right?
So it was supposed to be taken with a grain of salt, but too much salt is bad for you.
Yeah, well, that too. So that's the idea, is that you just kind of have to find out what it is. And a lot of people think they're eating healthy and they can't figure out why they're still overweight. And they try all these diets that you just can't stick with. I mean, you probably could just eat vegetables and take supplements and you'd lose weight. But are you going to stick with that? How many people are going to go on just a vegetable diet and be able to stick with it for a year or two?
Not me.
You can't even do it. Diets don't make sense. It has to be like a lifestyle. It has to be a way that you can eat the rest of your life. Otherwise, you're going to do it for a year or two or whatever and then go back. So that's my opinion, is that there are people who are very carb sensitive. Maybe Connie's very carb sensitive. Maybe her family is. And then people like me who aren't at all. I drank weight gainer shakes and I still couldn't put on weight. I was like, what the hell?
Can we take him out back and flog him?
He barely has a third dimension. If you turn him sideways, you kind of lose him there.
There are just so many of these studies that just show that the way that we're approaching this is absolutely ridiculous. So what they're kind of suggested is that you go on a lean meat, because wild meat is not as fat as domesticated meat. There's way more fat on like cows and stuff.
What about wild bacon?
Yeah. Well, and if you look at hunter-gatherers, they don't have this issue, right? They actually took some overweight women with diabetes in Australia and took them out to the bush and made them hunt their own food. So they were eating, plants and wild meat, and their diabetes went away. That's crazy. Does that make... Yeah, so I think that's just it. We're trying to apply one rule to everybody, saying everybody has to eat this way, blah, blah, blah. And it just doesn't work that way.
Well, that's
So, Connie, have you found a way to accommodate for all the different ways that people pack on weight or lose weight, so that you can cook one meal and not have to feel as though, oh my gosh, now I've got to tailor this to everybody in addition to my life,
Usually I cook for the kids and the husband, and I usually eat something completely different. Just because I can't eat a lot of the foods that the kids are eating. They love pasta. I can't eat pasta. They love rice. I can't eat rice. They love the steak and potatoes. I can't eat that stuff. So I'd rather just worry about cooking for 2 or 3 people and then eat something that I can eat.
Are you on like a no-carb diet or a low-carb diet? Or
just really calorie counting, low fat, and low carb.
So what if everybody ate the way you did?
Then my whole family would be nice and skinny.
Yeah.
But I'm still not there yet. But again, I don't want the kids to suffer nutritionally just because I can't eat pasta, even if it's the brown rice, the brown pasta. I still want them to eat good, but
there's
smaller
really not
portions.
much nutrition in that anyways. Right? You get more fiber from vegetables plus micronutrients as well. So
it's tough.
It's tough.
The low carb is good though.
You're way nicer than my mother, because my mom went on a diet. Everybody went on a diet. And that takes us to the end of our show. Thank you so much for everybody for being with us. Thank you, Connie. It's that great report, Tyler. Thank you so much. Coming around, like we said, we have Deborah from Beyond the Trailer Park. They'll be joining us next week. We also have Russell Glasser and Tracy Harris from the Atheist Experience coming on the pipe, as well as a Sasquatch hunter. Another announcement, we also have Phil Ferguson of Polaris Financial, who also does the Phil Ferguson Show. That's going to be coming to us and talking about skepticism in economics.
And remember, May 1st, next Sunday, Alzheimer's Walk, Burnaby, 9 o'clock is registration. Please be there.
You can catch us at leftatthevalley.com, on Facebook, on Twitter. Thank you, guys. Until next time.
Let me take a second.